Thank you for joining Hawaii Wellness Network. And I have an expert in a subject that I think all of us would like to talk about, and it's on relationships. Thanks, Paul, for coming in.
Thank you for having me, Laurie.
And of course, I think of relationships with, your partner or marriage, that kind of thing, but it could be relationships with coworkers.
It's amazing,
friends,
yeah.
family.
We're very much impacted in all every aspects of our life. Even our children, how many parents have difficulties with children? So, yeah. But most
that's
people,
their job.
when they think about it, they're thinking, lovers, soulmates, husbands,
so we can start with that, since that's something that I would like to get more information on.
Okay.
Since I wish I would have started working with you about 16. It would have saved a lot of learning lessons over the last 25 years.
Well, I don't think I would have been much value back then, but...
but starting out with someone younger, they would definitely learn a lot. So let's say someone, and you're in the magazine, someone comes to you and says, I'm single, I'm in my 40s, I think I'm ready, and I'm just having some blockages. I'm just not, meeting the right people. What would be some suggestions? Or
what I do, Lori, is very different than almost anybody I've ever come across. And
so
I have to give it a little preface before I can actually answer that in a simple manner. I grew up with two brothers. I didn't know anything about, the opposite sex for the most part. So I had to go through a big learning curve. So most of my learning was spiritual-based. And I can't say that I necessarily know men or women all that well, but what I do know is what impacts us in relationships. And after all of my spiritual studies, what I have learned is karma. Karma impacts every aspect of our life. All our successes, all our failures, our relationships. It impacts every aspect of our life. And how that shows up is, if you have, let's say, a relationship, a good example is people that they get into a relationship and it's all wonderful and, they're lovey-dovey and everything. And then about 6 months to a year into it, all of a sudden they find out the guy's been cheating on them, and and they're like, why? I don't get it. What did I do wrong? These things can be traced back to oftentimes father things, or mother things, depending on the sex. But it can also be traced back to previous times if one believes in previous lives. And so a simple example is when I have somebody come sit down with me, I don't necessarily dig up all the mud. It's really unnecessary to dig up the mud of the past and bring up the pain and all that. I simply work with the client to understand that there's a reason why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. And the first step is self-responsibility, that we are creators of our reality. And once we take responsibility that what we put our focus on and what is in front of us, what unpleasantries are in front of us, is a direct responsibility for all those choices we made in this and any previous time. And now it's come back to remind us and help us grow through it. Then we can move forward. Like I specialize in helping people clear the blockages to find their soulmate.
Well, that sounds good.
Yeah, who wouldn't want that,
Sign me
right?
up, right. Yeah, and I think that you have one relationship, and like you said, the cheating, or I haven't had that experience, but other things, and you say, okay, what did I do wrong, and you overanalyze, and then you take that into the next relationship. Oh, well, I learned this last time, so now I'm going to be extra cautious that I don't do this and this, and it's not even the same situation, and you're bringing all this baggage into the next relationship. It's not necessary, so you almost need to figure out what happened in the past life.
In the previous times. Because, you said it exactly, that we learn something, go to the next one, learn something else, go to the next one. There's always something else.
And then you have all this huge baggage by the time you get through 3 or 4.
And our own baggage is really often what gets in the way. It's important to understand that we are two individual souls coming together with our stuff. And our stuff is carried over from this and previous time. And it's not a bad thing. Part of responsibility is recognizing that it's there to assist us in removing it. And the ways to remove it that I teach in a very foundational series of practices, things that people can do on their own, is love and forgiveness and self-love. A lot of it is self-love. I'm writing a book right now, and I haven't quite put the title on it.
When is it going to be out so I can read it?
I'm looking at about 2 to 3 months. I'm working with Worth Grace, phenomenal publisher. And, but she's helping me make sure it's what I want it to be. And part of that is getting people to understand that when we take full responsibility, that every aspect of our life is led to where we're at, and those things that are bringing that are showing up in our life right now that are not serving us well. When we take responsibility that we brought that to us, we can unwind it by offering forgiveness, by going into love. And when we go into self-love, I've come at it from a very different perspective than a lot of people I've ever looked at. A simple example. Most of us don't come out of the womb talking straight to God. You know, they're with us, and the angels are with us, and the kids see him, children see him because the third eye's open. However, we're taught. We're like a blank DVD that comes into the world, and our parents train us, our teachers train us, our brothers and sisters train us, our religions train us. And whatever we're taught, whatever we absorb is how we bring our filter into the world. These teachings aren't always the most accurate. They aren't always those things that are of the highest value to us. Our soul comes in with an intention to remove negative karma, to build virtuous conditions, and to work through those things that we made unpleasant choices in the past so we can move our soul journey forward. The biggest dilemma that we have is we come in with the right intentions, and heaven lines up everything so that we have the best things to happen. But when we have certain parents that necessarily don't follow the rules, or they didn't do what was expected by heaven, when we get stuck in various religious modalities that teach us we can only be loved if we do this and this and this and that. You know, the ones that say, oh, you can't quite get God's love unless you do it this exact way. All of these teachings serve to take us away from the love that is always there and always unconditionally there. What I try to teach people to move them back to self-love is Creator has always loved us unconditionally. We are who is far from Creator. Creator is always in here, never far from us. But all of the trainings we've ever received through life has moved us away from Creator and made us as if we can never do enough to get that love. So we always do something to please mom and dad. We always do something to make sure the religious group is happy. We always do something to please our spouse. We're always doing so that we can get what we want. And then we're in a dead battery at the end of the relationship. And we wonder why we're drained. What I try to empower people to do is to go the opposite direction. To regain their strength by acknowledging that they did not need to look to mom and dad to receive love. They did not need to look to the spouse to receive love. They did not need to do this, and that with the Creator to receive love. That it's always been there, and there's ways to get back to that. And when somebody fully loves themselves, fully validates that all of those teachings that they received are not serving them anymore. They came into life to serve them, and it's done a job. It's brought them to where they're at. So they need to be grateful for all that. At the same time, they need to be able to release that and reset the programming in a way where they move into deep love.
And that might work better in Match.com or the internet stuff.
What people don't understand is we are magnetic vehicles. We literally attract to us that which we focus on. We put 51% into any particular thing, we're going to get that out of it. And if that 51% is negative, woe is me, I hope this person isn't going to be abusive. If you're focusing, I hope this person isn't going to be abusive, I hope this person isn't going to be abusive, what is our focus on?
Right. Isn't it amazing that every time you have a friend that breaks up with someone, they have the exact same experience and attract the same person. And they even a lot of times look alike. You're like, he looks just like the last guy. Yeah. So until you take that time down to figure all that out and clean it.
It's true. We have to take responsibility, and that comes into manifestation as well. So it's literally a process of bringing people to awareness, dissolving the past relationships in a way where it's now beneficial. How many of us, I hate that boyfriend. He cheated on me, or I would be so much better if Dad didn't abuse me, or any of these belief systems that we hold on to. Those absolutely must be forgiven because we carry forth that energetic pattern into what we're manifesting to us. We can go on Match.com and find the most beautiful person, and they're still going to have that stuff until we resolve it through love and forgiveness and awareness and self-love.
And that could be subconscious thoughts that you're not even aware that you're doing, and so you're attracting that.
I don't have a percentage, but I would guess that depending on how much a person has grown somewhere between 50 and 90% is unconscious.
Yeah.
Yeah, subconscious.
Right, and you're not even aware you're doing
Yeah,
it.
it's just it's the
that?
programming that we've received our whole life, and it runs in these subtle tones. We think we're in control, but we're not. Our programming is what's running the show.
We're starting to realize that by the time you hit your 40s.
You're like, maybe something's going on here.
Maybe I need to get some.
Because there's a lot of truly beautiful people out there. I mean, they have good hearts, they've done good things, they give, they're just good people, a lot of us. And we can't figure out why we're not finding that right soul. And, you know, I've had to go through all that before I found, you know, my soulmate. And what I've learned along the way didn't come through searching that out. It came through all the spiritual teachings and the unwinding of all those things that I learned to be very grateful to my mother, my father, the religions. I am extremely grateful to all of them. They served an amazing purpose of allowing me to see what I no longer want in my life. And I offer gratitude and forgiveness at the same time. That's allowed me to reset. How do I want it? That's where manifestation comes in. Okay, what do I want it to look like? It's kind of like people say, well, if I manifest enough, that $1 million lotto, if I focus on it 99% of the time, I'm going to get it. No, you won't. If your karma is good, then you may. But if you're a butthole in a previous time, it's not going to happen. It doesn't matter how good you manifest. It's not going to happen. It's the same thing with a healthy relationship. It's the same thing with a soulmate. As good of a person as you are, as much as you try, as many dates as you have, you're not going to locate that person until you clean up the stuff that keeps coming up in front of you to be addressed.
Can you go into a little bit, you know, I've heard that you actually have a plan before you come down to meet certain people, or you have a connection with someone, or you've had past lives, or you're there to learn. Can you go into that a little bit? Because I've heard so many different theories of it that now I'm like, okay.
You mean as far as before we come in?
Right.
Okay,
You have a connection. I know, long. We can cover this briefly, but you have a connection with someone, and you think, oh, this is it. And I think that's really where people get misguided.
It's a very good point. It's a storyline. I'll give you a little storyline, and it's just my belief system. And that is that before we come in the incarnation, us and our heavens teams are up there and going, okay, you've got this stuff you had with mom and dad. They're going to be this way towards you. You need to be like this to resolve that. You're going to have these 7 men into your life, and then this one, and this one, and this one. You had cheated on in previous times, so they're going to cheat on you, but you need to work through forgiveness.
It's like a movie.
It's like a movie. And they're going, okay, you got to resolve all this stuff, okay? Wow. And we're going to line up all the stars and the birth and the mother and the father and the dates, and you're going to come in exactly this time so you can work through all this stuff. That's my joke about what's really happening upstairs. I believe that's what happens. And astrologers would tell you that's pretty accurate too. The dilemma is the others in the room also have their stuff coming in.
Their movie going.
But they were taught by their parents who were taught by their parents, and everyone's got their own movie. And my parents are teaching me their movie. Excuse me. Especially to the listening audience. Sorry about that. But we are fed whatever people thinks is the right thing. My stuff could be completely inaccurate, but it has proved out that it does work. And the reason why is because we're acknowledging that the information that's come to us is not serving us well. So specifically to your question, you know, I have this person into my life, and I'm feeling
you have that connection,
wonderful.
Like I've known him forever, and this is it.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
And this is the
this
second
is
time.
The one.
Yes.
How do I know if this is my soulmate?
Right.
That's one of the chapters in my book, and it comes to the point of this question. You can have that kind of an intense feeling. What it really means is that I have been with this person in previous times, and we definitely have a strong connection.
Oh, you're killing it for me.
Yeah.
Because you think that's it.
You think that's it. Now, it doesn't mean it's not, but buyer beware. Okay?
Yeah.
Because
could mean
that person has entered into your life, potentially to be there on a permanent basis, but definitely to resolve whatever debts you two had set up in a previous time. And if you come at it with that awareness, then you can work through with love and forgiveness through those roadblocks when they pop up 6, 7, 8 months down the road. Okay? When those little lights go off in your head and you're going, well, I don't remember him being like that when we first met, and you don't say anything, so then it festers and it grows into a year and a half of the relationship, and all of a sudden, kaboom. When those little lights go off in your head, That's your soul telling you this is your opportunity to resolve this. Now, it does take two aware individuals, which is not always the easiest thing. Okay, but I also empower people on how to do soul communication. One of the most powerful techniques I teach people, how to communicate directly with souls. A whole lot easier than dealing with personalities.
Right.
I mean, you try to connect the personalities, they've been taught to communicate a certain way. Men and women don't speak the same way. Right?
Yes,
I mean, she says that, and the guy says, why are you not blaming me? It's like, what? So relationship communication can be quite difficult. I do work with that communication style and teach people a better style of communicating. But at the same time, it's much easier to work on the level of soul. Much easier. You can literally just invite their soul in and have a conversation, and it works. And here's why it works. The souls have one purpose, and it's not the same as the personality's purpose. The soul's purpose is to remove karmic debt, to do virtuous activity, to move higher in heaven, so we can quit coming down here and having this miserable experience. The soul's purpose, and these two souls know that. So when you call in the soul of the spouse, and you say, you know, I love you, I really want to resolve this, da-da-da-da, how can we make this work better? That soul goes back and whispers in the personality's ear. Says, you know, she really loves you. She really wants for this to be resolved. And this is the best way to resolve it. And something that might take 2 days to a week under normal conditions that people have gotten used to when they get in this, battle, could literally be resolved in a few hours. Because on the soul level, they don't want that fighting to occur. They want the resolve. Now, the other part of the second half of that question is you could get into that relationship with that amazing person and go through all these processes, and the relationship could fall apart. Why? Because that was all that needed to be received out of that. It could fall apart in a blessing, loving way. It doesn't need to be a vicious.
Because they might be helping you to resolve things, so then
Yes.
you're ready for
and
the
then
next,
you're completely leveled
the
up
right
for
one.
that right one. Exactly.
And you forget that.
Yes, we get so bogged down in
Yes.
the moment that we fail to comprehend there's a lot of value that can happen.
And they
during
messed
these.
it all, the whole relationship.
And people just don't have the tools to be present in a relationship in a way where they are being responsible, where they're recognizing that everything that's happening is for a reason, and working with a step-by-step very simple process of dissolving the blockages as they arise. When there's communication difficulties, I teach them those skills. And if they can't grasp the skills, well, then they'll learn soul communication. That'll resolve it. Mm-hmm. But they get enough skill sets, that when they stick with it, they will have benefits.
So you could actually work with a couple.
I could.
Together.
Yeah. I mean, I technically, I have no marriage counseling degrees. I have no psychology degree. I don't have a degree I have a bachelor's degree, in business. But I have life experience, and I have proof that it works, and I have a master that has blessed me with incredible healing abilities. And these abilities do not limit myself to physical. People think healing is physical. Relationship has blockages because of karma. Finances have blockages because of karma. Pain is karma blockages. And the transmission I've received from my beloved teacher, Master Shah, I can literally, at a distance or in person, offer blessings to clear the karmic blockages. Now, they still have to work through them, but it lifts the cloud.
But at least
Definitely.
giving an explanation of why things happened will help you forgive and move on instead of, still being angry at that ex-boyfriend that did this to you 20 years ago. And you hear that all the time.
Because I give a visual to people. I'm like, people get stuck in their, woe is me. And visually it's like this. That son of a, who's hanging on to the bars? Is it the boyfriend or is it you?
And then you find out they've been happy.
Oh,
and
they're having a great time.
And they got remarried.
Especially when they see him walking with some other pretty person. You're like, oh, but it's important to understand that we are keeping ourselves. Forgiveness brings inner peace and inner joy. Forgiveness is not the same as saying it's okay what he did. It's not that. It's saying I'm acknowledging that if they did that to me, what did I possibly do to them that brought that to me? And if it is the first time I'm experiencing this, and I never did that to them, which is possible, do I really want to be the person that is the abuser the next time around? Or would it be much better for me to love myself and forgive them unconditionally and walk away in a healthy place.
And if you knew and saw the big picture, and a lot of times you can on your own,
Yes.
that person was the one that taught you that last lesson to find your soulmate, and it's going to be a better person, then you would actually thank that person for that blessing they gave you and not be angry at them. And that's a totally different, and a sense of peace moving on.
Yeah.
And that's something you can help us with.
Yes, and it helps again because I've trained in the spiritual field for over 20 years, and more recently, in the last 3 to 4 years, I've opened my spiritual channels. I've been blessed to receive authority to access the Akashic Records. People state that they can access them, and actually some people can. The reality is you do have to have authority, and the degree of accuracy can be questionable at times. And even for me, I'm certainly not perfect. But I am blessed to have the authority, and I have worked many, many years to open my spiritual channels so that the accuracy is good. I am certified. And I can actually check and ask the leaders of the Akashic Records, what is the karma between these souls? What's going on? What needs to be cleared? What should be addressed? And it goes to the core of the issue versus kind of trying to put out a fire when you're not sure where the fire is.
Right. Or what the
It helps a lot.
is.
Yeah.
Well, great. So someone that's maybe having some blockages in dating or just conflicts in a relationship, a coworker relationship, family, you can help them kind of get some explanations.
Coworker relationships. A good example is one of the gentlemen I've worked with now. I've worked with him for about 6 months, and he's just like a walking miracle. But in terms of relationships at work, he had a lot of issues, and I taught him soul conferencing. I gave him some of the divine soul songs that carry a much higher frequency, taught him to play them at work. Within a couple of weeks, the environment at work shifted. People who weren't talking to him or chatting with him, they were at lunch. He was shocked, and he did a lot of forgiveness practice as well because he grasped the simple concept that he probably caused some irritation at some point in time that he cannot comprehend. Mm-hmm. So he did forgiveness practice. He asked their souls to work together, and within a very short period of time it shifted. So it's not just about individual man-woman relationships. It can be with the children. I mean, if you have a child that's rebellious and one child that's fine, real good possibility you were the rebellious child at a different previous time, causing a whole lot of hell to the parents. So these things can be addressed on those levels.
And your parents always say that. See, you're getting back.
Yeah, see,
what
you're getting
you did.
back. Yeah, we hear that one from the parents.
Yes, all the time. The grandma.
Very true.
It's like, see, you're getting it all back out. You're like, oh, I wish it wasn't so challenging.
Yeah, and people can find out more. They can give me a call. I'm at 808-469-6199, and I have a website. It's asoulhealer.com. So.
And you have special offers in the Hawaii Wellness magazine.
I do, yeah. And your magazine's awesome. You know, I'm so grateful for it. So yeah, people can take advantage of it. They do get a half-hour free consultation.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah, we'll go over their stuff, and I say, this is what I can do for you. And I think my fees are reasonable. And, you know, people, they look for things that can bring, we're in a fast food society. You know, I want an answer now. And one of the wonderful things about this is that we're working on a level of origin because we are souls first before we're physical beings. When we address things at the level of soul, as my teacher, Master Sha, teaches, heal the soul first and the mind and body follows. Every relationship has a relationship soul. The individuals do too. We have our own blockages. When we heal at that level, those things around us can transform pretty fast. And I empower my clients with a series of tools from music that has a higher frequency to communication that opens up their soul and even their soul's language, to soul communication with that soul, giving them immediate things that shift what they've been so stuck in. And I'm always amazed at how fast things can actually change if a person does what is suggested. Because we're dealing with at the level of origin. That's the key.
So if someone's an executive and I have this amazing marriage and that's not my challenge in this life,
yeah.
But you know they have 5 different opportunities to work with different business partners.
Yeah.
So they can actually meet with you weekly sessions and you know discuss blockages or is this a good business opportunity with this person or what are some of the challenges that might come up and help their business get to another level or.
Yeah, this is where I utilize my my Divine Channel transmissions, and we opened Akashic Records. One of the things really relevant, let's say somebody wanted to go into business with another person. These two people could be extremely intelligent, in their own right, and yet, what if they have business karma together? What if one person doesn't, and the other person does have business karma? They get together, and the person who's done well fails. This does happen. It happens more than you
Or
guess.
if it's unbalanced. I think everybody's, tried to do even a little tiny business or a little tiny project.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very challenging, to keep the partnership even and the respect and the communication.
Mm-hmm.
Very challenging.
And so, and I have worked with clients that have their own businesses. And one of the wonderful things about what I do is they can ask me a question about an upcoming project or what new should I explore. And in the soul world, we have our own heavens teams. We have guides, angels, saints. We have a team, and they're here to support us. And my communication channels are such that I can ask them, do the soul of this business person's heavens, teams, guides, angels, and saints, the soul of their business, the soul of the highest and best information for them to hear at this time regarding what business should they go into, or should they go into business with this person, etc. Right. And then I tune in and I flow out the answer. And I'm always surprised because it's rarely in words that I would use. It's information that I probably wouldn't have thought of on my own. And when I'm done, I ask the person, does that help? Does that sound like, and I get a lot of very positive feedback. And then afterwards, 2-3 weeks, 2-3 months later, it validates out. And the wonderful thing about the soul world is they want us to succeed. They want us to grow. They want us to love. They want us to prosper and move towards the light. They don't want us to fail necessarily. And they're always there to support us. But as individuals, our bodily systems are so compressed with TV, news, anger, relationships, money problems. We're bombarded by just about every negative thing you can imagine by the press. And that shoves back the inability of the soul world and our guides, angels, and saints to communicate with us. I had to work diligently just to have the clarity that I have. So it's not like it's an easy thing to get to. So there's a value in honoring for someone like me to assist that person to hear what they can't hear on their own. Because everybody can hear this if they do the work.
We just choose not to listen.
Yeah, they have to do the work.
I do that.
I've done the work, and it wasn't easy. I mean, I suffered a lot in terms of soul growth, spiritual growth, to be where I'm at, to have this kind of a conversation. And that's why people pay for a financial advisor, because he did the work.
Right.
That's why people pay for my services, because I help them weed through the crap a whole lot faster.
Right.
So these
people
arenas.
go see a life coach or a financial coach. So this is just an extension that someone can see you
using it.
Once a
Yeah,
week
it's
or
not
once
a rote right out of the book. This is more about dealing with things in the level of origin, working with very real healing abilities to very real clear the blockages, empowering people with tangible, validating activities that will validate themselves out via the practices, and they're not what I would call real world stuff, where you're just reading out of a psychology book and just doing.
Well, yeah, and if someone's been doing that, it's not working,
working.
for them,
Yeah.
and this connects with them. And hey, you know what? I don't really maybe comprehend everything you just said, but something in my soul connects, and it's what I've been doing. It's not working, so I'm really open to trying something else.
Yeah.
And this is actually your second book coming up, because you were just featured in a book. It just came out.
That's right.
Messages of Peace from
What
Hawaii.
a wonderful book.
You were one of the 100 authors that were featured, and congratulations.
And I am honored to have been asked to write a little flow for that. Mm-hmm. If anybody decides to read that and to get to my little section, Paul Fletcher, that came through Divine Flow. I asked for a flow to speak to the world, so that wasn't my voice. Gives people an example
give
of.
a little sample.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to read your next book. I'm sure. I mean, tonight helped a lot.
So far, the name is Soulmate Karma, but I'm still working on the title.
Great. Yeah. Well, we'll look forward to that, and we'll of course have that in the next Why Wellness magazine. Your updates. Well, thank you for coming on, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Can I tell people how to contact me if they just?
Would you like to go over your website and your phone number?
So you can call me at 808-469-6199, and my website is www.asoulhealer.com. And You do get a free consultation for a half hour if you get hold of me, and I'm happy to serve. So thank you very much.
What an amazing opportunity. Well, thank you for coming on tonight. I learned a lot. I think I'm processing everything. I've got a lot to think about tonight. So
Wonderful.
great. Bye.
Bye.